Good Friday afternoon. It is September the 17th. It's the noon hour. That sound means it's time for 590 Baseball. My name is Jim Hewer. Glad you're with us. We've got baseball to talk about. We've got a big race on for the second wild card spot. Cardinals back in town tonight. We are going to go around the world of Major League Baseball and get you some news and notes. We'll hear from Derek Gould a little bit later on in the show, so there's much to get to on this Friday. It is always a busy Friday here at 590 The Fan because we'll have a little bit of the reset with some college football, NFL in the 1 o'clock hour. 2 o'clock hour, it's the Cam Jansen Show live from Top Shooters. Go on over right now, make plans, say hello to Cam and Charlie Marlowe and the gang. It's a nice, fantastic Friday. It's a little humid, but it's not bad out there. We'll take the sunshine. And then Hockey Sense with Andy Strickland at 3 o'clock. He will have Craig Berube on with him today. So we'll listen to that at 3 o'clock. And then Bernie Miklasz jumps in here from 4 to 6. So lots going on this Friday. And it's good if you're a baseball fan. And Cardinal fans are all back on the bandwagon today. And they've been on the bandwagon, well, probably since Wednesday. It was a fantastic series for the Cardinals to sweep the New York Mets in Gotham, puts them, as we start play today, with the number 2 wild card spot, winners of 5 in a row, 7 of their last 10. Their manager, Mike Shildt.
Just stayed like we typically do. We stay with it the whole way. They tie it in the 9th yesterday. A-Ray goes out, big 10th. We go out, team effort, Rondon, big knock, Kiz 2-run single. And then today, right from Jump Street, we were able to score the 5 spot and just keep going. Bader, good swing. Sosa, great swing. Goldie, obviously. Nolan. O'Neill had a good series, and, the pitching was good, and the guys played clean for the most part and did it together. It
is officially time to get the pom-poms out. They're playing good baseball. They need to be recognized for playing good baseball all year long, all summer long. We've had our discussions on this radio station. I've had them as well, where you just were disappointed by the way the team was playing, and all of a sudden, they found it. They found it here on today, as I said, is the 17th of September, and they have that opportunity. Now, they're not in. Don't sit here and go, it's done and over with, because they have a half-game lead on the San Diego Padres, who come to town tonight, and we'll talk about them, the Phillies, and the Reds as well before we take our look around Major League Baseball coming up here. But, look, the Cardinals, you have to be excited. They did everything well this week in New York. You saw good pitching from Adam Wainwright as he shut out the New York Mets. Great stuff there. The second game of that series was outstanding in terms of it. It had all of the drama you would want in a baseball game that meant something in a race for a playoff spot late in the season. I rank it up there, and I again, time will tell how important it was, because if they don't make the playoffs, you just say, well, it was a nice win, but it's not an historical win. But I rank it up there with a couple of other great Cardinal wins from the 1980s. If you were with us earlier this week on 590 The Fan, I mentioned them. 1985, the date was September the 11th, and it was a game between the Mets and the Cardinals battling out for the top spot in the NL East. It was a 0-0 tie going into the 10th inning. You had Dwight Gooden matched up against John Tudor, and Orozco comes into the game in a 0-0 game. Cesar Cedeno comes off the bench, pinch hits a home run. Cards win the game 1-0. Then we fast forward exactly 2 years later, in 1987. Cardinals just about ready to get jumped in the standings by the New York Mets. Roger McDowell is on the mound, and Terry Pendleton hits a home run with 2 strikes on him in the top of the 9th inning as the Cardinals are just about to lose the ball game. The game goes in extra innings. They win the game. This game Friday night for the Cardinals had that similar feel. A lot of great stuff with it. You had Tyler O'Neill with the big home run to give the Cardinals the lead in the contest. Then Javier Baez comes through with his home run to tie it off of the Cardinal closer, Gallegos. And you're like, oh, really? There goes the opportunity, right? Cardinals are building momentum. You feel it starting to slip away. The bullpen can't close it. You go to extra innings. Cardinals don't score in the 10th. Bottom of the 10th, you've got runners at first and third, 1 out, and A ground ball to Paul Goldschmidt, steps on first. They get the runner and a rundown between home and third, and you had all three Gold Glovers there involved with the play, Goldschmidt, Molina, and Arenado. Cardinals come up with a bunch of runs, win the game in extra innings. They score 7 times, did have to hold on because of the bullpen, had to go to KK at the end, but he found a way to make it a 7-6 win. And then the final game of the series, Cardinals, boom, jump up with 5 runs early. They make it stand up, and things are off and running. They definitely have the swagger back. There's one guy we know who has the swagger, and that's Harrison Bader. He's a New York native, and he says this team is ready.
I don't know how to categorize it or how to think about it or really even quantify it, but all I know is we're just staying in the pocket and playing our game on all sides of baseball. We know our schedule in front of us. We know how tight these games are and how close the race is. But, at the end of the day, if we don't take care of, what we got to take care of, for 9 innings on any given day, it really doesn't matter. We all know it. So
Bader with a big home run in that game the other night. Cardinals doing well. And even the new guys like Tyler O'Neill, he's been here for a little while, but he hasn't gone through one of these really strong postseason runs by the Cardinals that we've known in the last 10 years or so, but he kind of gets the vibe on what it means for the Cardinals late in September.
We've been waiting to really bust out all year. We came close a couple times, gotten some good runs, but it's just crunch time, and we're the Cardinals, so September baseball, stuff's important, and here to win.
You got to like that what he said there at the end. Hey, we're the Cardinals. It's September baseball, and they're supposed to win. We'll see where it takes them from here on out. You like your chances. You got the San Diego Padres in town tonight. San Diego did come away with a big win yesterday, and their manager is Jace Tingler, and he likes that they won the last 2 games against the San Francisco Giants. They're just a half game behind the St. Louis Cardinals.
It's good, especially the way we played the last couple days. Pitchers have been huge, and obviously you've seen just the shift offensively, just, longer at bats, guys up and down the lineup, squaring the ball off, squaring it up hard, getting knocks, all directions, driving the ball, running the bases well, extending at bats, battling good pitches, taking, some tough borderlines. So it's good to see. And now head to St. Louis and get ready to roll.
Yep, tonight's the night. It's a first of 3, Cardinals and the San Diego Padres. As I mentioned, Cardinals doing it with defense. They're doing it with strong pitching. The San Diego Padres, they were scuffling coming into their series with San Francisco, but they found a way to win the last 2. And as we start play into this weekend series, the Cardinals own the second wild card. The San Diego Padres are just a half game out. And look, the Padres have scuffled, and they made all the moves in the offseason, and they were the favorite to win this thing. And in fact, the last time these two teams met, back in the end of May, I believe it was, or early June, the Padres stuck it to the Cardinals, and they were off and running, and it looked like it was going to be Padres and the Dodgers, and the Giants were going to run away with it easy. And if the Cardinals wanted any opportunity to get into the playoffs, they were going to have to try and catch and hold and win the division. Not the case now. We know about all the issues with the San Diego Padres, but they were the team, remember, in the offseason, that made all the strong moves. They had a great season a year ago. They eliminated the Cardinals, ended up losing in the next round, but then they said, all right, we're going to go after this. We're going to go get whatever we can. What does it cost? Doesn't matter. And on the 29th of December, they said, okay, we'll get Blake Snell, and we'll go get Yu Darvish from the Cubs. They made those big moves, and everybody said, uh-oh. Padres are putting the Dodgers on notice. They're going to make a run at this thing. They're for real. Then in the next month, in January, they went and got Joe Musgrove. And it was like, wow, Snell, Darvish, and Musgrove to go with the pitching they already have. It's going to be a great race. And then in early April, we had the great series between the Dodgers and the Padres. And Padres got a little bit at the better of the Dodgers at the time. And everybody said, that's it, man. Padres are going to do it. They're off and running. Now, as we sit here on the 17th of September, the Padres are faltering. And tonight's starter for them is Vince Velasquez, who last week was a member of the Philadelphia Phillies. And he has bad numbers for the Phils. Phil's been waiting for this guy to come around and be a difference maker in the rotation for a while now. He was released after going 3-6 with a 5.95 ERA in 81 2/3 innings. His first six starts of the season were not bad for the Phillies, as he had a 2.95 ERA, but he's been brutal lately. So keep that in mind. Velasquez picked up off the waivers, and the Padres are so desperate for pitching. Velasquez is going to start in this series. Jake Arrieta is going to start in this series, who they picked up a couple weeks ago after the Cubs said no mas. It is a different Padre team, but they won their last two. They're confident, as the manager said, at least a little bit coming into this one. There's so much to play for. It's going to be a great series. The pitching matchups, I said Velasquez tonight. Michaelis goes for the Cardinals. Yu Darvish is going to go for the San Diego Padres tomorrow. Darvish has been brutal as well. In his last 49 innings pitched, he's allowed 45 runs in his last 49 innings pitched. Waino goes for the Cardinals on Saturday. It's Arrieta on Sunday for the Padres. And it looks like Jay Happ is going to get the start on Sunday for the Cardinals. We shall see. But it's an interesting situation for the Padres. They have multiple games where they have bullpen games. They had one yesterday against the San Francisco Giants, and they found a way to win. Chris Paddock is on the IL for them, another one of their starters. So is Blake Snell, and here's Jace Tingler talking about Blake Snell.
Making small improvements. He's, not going to probably make, the next start. We're going to have to see how it goes here. He played catch, out to, I think it was, 75, 90 feet. Still feels it in there, which is, not ideal, but it's been better in the last couple of days. So, the training staff going to continue to work. Blake's doing everything he can to get back as soon as possible. But I, obviously don't expect him to make the next start in St. Louis.
Cardinals, Padres, big series this weekend and beyond. There's a lot to play for. Padres are just a half game behind the St. Louis Cardinals. Looking forward to that. It's 590 baseball. It's noon on a Friday. My name is Jim Hewer. Glad you're hanging out with us. Let's go around the major leagues and take a look at what's happening. Last night, the Philadelphia Phillies have blown 31 saves this year. 31. Well, last night they were actually down 7-0 to the Chicago Cubs. They returned the favor.
The stretch. Here's the pitch. Swung on, slap. Down the left field line. It's in for a base hit. Around third, Odubel Herrera. He's coming home to score. Segura into third. Harper into second. He's put the Phillies on top.
Yep. The Phillies came back. They win the game, and now they remain 2.5 games behind the Cardinals for that number 2 wild card spot. Phillies have struggled in the last 10. They've only are 4-6 in their last 10. But they've won 2 in a row. Keep an eye on the Phils. The Cincinnati Reds, they've had their problems this week. In fact, they have been finding ways to lose to the Pirates.
Bouncing ball. Votto plays it off the glove and a throw to the pitcher. Here comes Defoe. He scores! Walk it off on Clemente Day with a great hustling play that the great one would appreciate and raise the Jolly Roger.
They were raising the Jolly Roger on Wednesday night. A come-from-behind win for the Pirates over the Cincinnati Reds. Reds did salvage yesterday's afternoon game with the Pirates. They have 6 more games with Pittsburgh, but remember, this was a 3-game set. They were supposed to eat them up, right? The Reds, they did not. They did not take care of business. They're 3-7 in their last 10. They have not been playing well, and their manager, David Bell.
We absolutely know this is going to turn. We came back in that game tonight, but I have no doubt, and it's because I know our players, I know our team. Not to say it's easy. I mean, we have to turn this around. We know that, and I'm completely confident and feel it turning, and it's going to happen. So that's where my focus is, and again, it just comes from knowing our team, knowing our players,
David
knowing
Bell,
the character, and really that's all I need to know, and all that matters.
He's blowing the sunshine for the Cincinnati Reds as David Bell. They're 76-71, a game out as we head into this weekend's action behind the St. Louis Cardinals. Let's go out to the American League. As we go around and look at Major League Baseball, man, the hottest team in the National League, you could say, is the Cardinals right now. Dodgers have won 6 in a row, but the Cardinals have won 5. But the hottest team in the American League is the Toronto Blue Jays. And they have a guy who is probably the MVP, was making a run at the Triple Crown.
3-1. There's a swing and a shot up the left field line. Screaming into the corner, and it's gone! A frozen rope right up the line and over the wall and left. There's a new home run leader, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. with number 45.
Guerrero Jr. first tied in home runs with 45. He's second in batting average at 317 behind Starling Marte's 321. He's third in RBIs with 103, a little ways behind Salvador Perez, who has 112. But he is making a strong case, and it's almost a closed door for the American League MVP right now. He's got a 406 OBP, 611 slug. He's first in runs scored, first in hits, first in total bases. And the Toronto Blue Jays, as they start play today, have one of those 2 wild card spots. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games. Even bigger number for the Toronto Blue Jays. They've hit 46 home runs in just their last 22 games. The offense is getting it done, and then they've got pitching coming through. Robbie Ray making a case that he could be the Cy Young Award winner, pressing with Garrett Cole. They're kind of going hand in hand here. How good has Ray's season been as a Toronto Blue Jay? He's the second Blue Jay pitcher to have double-digit 10-plus strikeout games in a season. The second ever. It's only been done by Roger Clemens, who did it in 97 and in 98. Other notables for the Blue Jays, they're playing well, and so is Bo Bichette. He's the second Blue Jay shortstop to hit 25-plus home runs. They can hit the ball. That only other shortstop in 99 was Miguel Bautista. They go 25-plus home runs at short for the Toronto Blue Jays. But they are getting it done. Keep an eye on them. One team not getting it done in that wild card race is let's just say it's the New York Yankees. They're finding ways to lose games, and they did it last night by giving up a wild pitch to tie the game. It just didn't work for the Yankees last night.
2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Yankees lead 2-1, bottom of the 9th. And that gets past Sanchez, but it comes right back to him. The throw home not in time, and Gutierrez scores to tie the game. Goodness gracious, just what you feared with the runner at third, and that's what happened.
You know, Cardinals have had their fair share of losses and meltdowns in their bullpen. They haven't lost a game I don't remember on a wild pitch. The game was tied then. This is how they lost it.
Peralta from the belt. He's set. He deals. And it's hit on the ground, and it's through the left side for a base hit. Jones down from third. He scores. Orioles win it 3-2 in 10 innings, and it is a mob scene behind first base.
Yeah, not only did you lose because you give a wild pitch in the 9th, but you lose to the Orioles, the ultimate slap in the face for the New York Yankees. They start play today a half game out of the wild card spot, as Toronto and Boston are in a dead tie right now for the 2 wild card spots in the American League. Now, moving forward as we look around Major League Baseball here on 590 Baseball in the noon hour, always on a Friday. These guys keep coming back to haunt the Cardinals front office. First one, Adolis Garcia.
2-1. That one swung on and driven to right center field. Siri back, track, wall, out of here. Adolis Garcia, his 30th home run of the season, and the Rangers take a 4-0 lead.
Boom. Yes. Adolis Garcia's 30th home run is tying a franchise rookie record for the Texas Rangers. The record was set in 86 by Pete Incaviglia. The 28-year-old outfielder now has 30 homers, 81 RBIs. He's got a 247 batting average. His OPS is not great at 294, and his slug is 475 through 133 games. But Adolis Garcia, he's found it in Texas. A guy who's found it up in Wrigleyville. Also, Cardinal front office guys are going, ooh, we might have missed this guy.
Contreras at first, no out. The 2-2 to Wisdom. Hit in the air, deep left field. This one is long gone. Patrick Wisdom has done it. Ties Chris Bryant's rookie home run record, number 26 on the year, and it gives the Cubs the lead 2-1 over the Phillies here in the fifth.
Patrick Wisdom, we're going to see a lot of him, I think, in the coming years as this Cardinal-Cubs rivalry continues. He's probably got the third base job sewed down for at least a little while if he continues to hit a little bit. Chris Bryant has moved on. Bryant, by the way, also had the rookie record at home runs at 26. He did that in 2015. Wisdom's 29, though. Remember that. It's taken a long time for Patrick Wisdom to figure this thing out. He had an opportunity last year and couldn't stick. But he does have 26 home runs, only 54 RBIs. The average is 237. Again, his on base is low at 305, much like Garcia's is. And he's done it through 98 games. First team to clinch, that happened this week in Major League Baseball. And it was, well, the team out west with the best record.
Got him. And that's the ball game. And for the Giants, they are headed to postseason for the first time since 2016. And a big hearty congratulations.
Giants are getting it done. They are 95-52 right now. They clinched, but they can't run away from the Los Angeles Dodgers. What a race that is. The Giants, 8-2 in their last 10. They've lost 2 in a row. The Dodgers have won 6 in a row. And the Dodgers are just one game behind the San Francisco Giants. Now, the president and CEO, Larry Baer, for the San Francisco Giants was interviewed after they clinched the other night. You know, they weren't supposed to be here. They weren't supposed to challenge the Dodgers. It was supposed to be the Padres and the Los Angeles Dodgers out west. But it's the Giants right now. This is what he had to say.
I don't know if you're a big fan of Fangraphs. They said 5% in February for the Giants making the playoffs. So that's
have high odds for you guys.
It's terrific, and so where we need to go is stay as focused and as determined as we've been, for the first 6 months. Let's make the 7th month just like that.
No, the Giants have the Dodgers right on their tail. We're watching the wild card race for the second wild card, and it's a pretty fantastic race with the Cardinals, the Padres, the Reds, even the Phillies are still hanging out there. But this opportunity for San Francisco to try and win the division and pulled off the Dodgers is really important. Again, we know what lies ahead for the team that doesn't win the division, and that is, well, you got to play somebody in a one-game playoff. Anything happens in a one-game playoff. How good have the Giants been? Well, as I said, they've got a 95-52 record. There's 15 games left. They're 13 wins away. Now, they would have to go 13-2 the rest of the way, but it's possible. But they would get close to the most wins for a National League team in the division era in a season. It's owned by the 75 Reds and the 1986 Mets at 108. The Giants are within spitting distance there. Not likely they'll go 13-2, but it's possible. And to think they're doing this tremendous season in San Francisco and they can't take their foot off the gas pedal because the Los Angeles Dodgers are chasing them down and they're right behind them. That's a look around the world of Major League Baseball. Glad you're with us here on 590 Baseball. One other note I do have to pass along. John Heyman sent out a tweet today that I think is pretty interesting. That is, there is interest with the New York Mets, and the Mets are probably interested in everything and anything they can get. But there seems to be some noise that Billy Beane could be leaving the Oakland A's somehow, some way, and joining the New York Mets. Sandy Alderson has a great relationship with Billy Beane for over 30 years. It's not a done deal. It's just a rumored situation on a tweet sent out by John Heyman, but it does make sense. The A's have a bad situation out there. Let's say it that way. They can't get the ballpark done. There's the commissioner saying, if you don't get us a ballpark, I'm going to have to move the team. Billy Beane probably would not mind getting an opportunity to go deal with a team with a war chest of riches with their new owner, Steve Cohen, and run the New York Mets. But it's not done there. John Heyman also tweets, if that happens, and it's an if, Bob Melvin, the manager of the Oakland A's, probably could be part of that deal. They make that happen. I think it's interesting. Bob Melvin, regarded as one of the better managers in baseball, has dealt with that low-budget A's team for a long time and has been very successful. Right now, as we look at the wild card race in the American League, the A's are still on the outside looking in. They're 3 games behind Boston and Toronto. It's possible, but not likely that they'll get that wild card spot. But I like that tweet coming out from John Heyman this morning that the possibility is there. That would definitely make it for an interesting offseason with the Mets. You get Billy Beane involved, get a new manager involved. Very interesting watch, to say the least. Let's take a break. It's 590 Baseball here on 590 The Fan. Glad you're hanging out with us on a Friday afternoon. Much more on the way. We'll hear from Derek Gould. We got a This Day in History with some pretty cool information about some former Cardinals on this day in history as we move forward on 590 Baseball and 590 The Fan. It's 12:36, moving through 590 Baseball here on a Friday afternoon. I'm Jim Hewer. Glad you're hanging with us from the Bertarelli Cutlery text line. Hockey Bob says, if recent memory serves me correctly, the Redbirds have not fared well versus the spoiler Pirates. Cardinals have struggled against them. Pirates got the better of the Reds again this week. You have to beat the teams that are in front of you, and we have had discussions about who has the easier schedule. Look, you have to beat everybody. There are spoilers all over the place. The Pirates got the Reds this week. The Padres, looked like they were dead in the water, but they won the last 2, so they got a little bit of life. They got Velasquez and Arrieta pitching for them in this series against the Cardinals, and you're thinking, hey, Cardinals got to take advantage of that. But you still got to win the games. Also from the Bertarelli Cutlery text line, San Diego's going to take 2 or 3 this week. And look, here's the thing. I'm not telling you this is the greatest Cardinal team and they're just going to roll through this thing and get themselves into the playoffs. That's not what I'm saying. But I do have to give them credit for playing better baseball and taking advantage of the situation. There are numerous stories, not just Cardinals teams in the past, but other teams that at one point or another, and you looked at the season, you said, this team has 0 chance of making the playoffs. They're not good enough. They're making dumb plays. They don't have enough pitching. They can't score enough runs. Somebody gets hot. Somebody's got to get cold. There's always that part of it. We talk about the 2011 Cardinals. The Padres fail down the stretch. Or not the Padres. The Atlanta Braves, failed down the stretch, and the Cardinals got hot. Boom. They win the World Series. Back in July of that year, you didn't think the Cardinals were going to win the World Series. It's not just in St. Louis either. couple of notes as I try and recall them. Here they are. 2005 Houston Astros did not win the World Series, but they made the World Series for the first time in franchise's history. It was June 9th. They were 12 games below 500 at one point, and they ended up making it to the World Series. Remember the 2019 Washington Nationals? September 16th, they were 10 games out. They were they were 10 games below 500 at late May. And they rolled through the playoffs with that pitching staff. So anything is possible, and I'm not telling you the Cardinals are a great team, but I do have to start giving them credit for playing good baseball as we speak right now. They're doing some nice things. As we roll through our 590 baseball here on a Friday, and we normally have an opportunity to visit with Derek Gould, but Derek's traveling back as we speak to get back in town for tonight's start of the 3-game set against the San Diego Padres. So I'm going to give you a chance to hear Derek as he visited with Bernie Miklasz earlier in the week, and they talk about all the good things that are happening with the St. Louis Cardinals right now.
Hey, let's talk about the Cardinals. And I was saying earlier, and I'll give you the short version. It's true that the other teams allowed them to hang around. Nobody took the baton and ran, right? It's true that they've been allowed to loiter. However, they're the only team in that mix now that is at least making a move, and a team that seems to be seizing the opportunity and running with it. It doesn't mean that they will hold on to it, but this idea that, like, well, the only reason they're even got a chance is because of the other team. Well, that happens a lot in sports. You get an opportunity, you make the best of it. They seem to be trying to do that for sure.
Yeah, the only reason there's a reunion for an 11th championship this weekend is because the Atlanta Braves didn't play well. I mean, how blunt do you want to get?
There you go, right.
I mean, the 2011 team had no business being in the postseason until the Braves said, yeah, all right, let's see what the Cardinals can do in it. We're not having any luck with the Phillies. Maybe the Cardinals will. That obviously wasn't their thought process, but, look, an opportunity is there for the taking, and that's what the Cardinals have done, is they've taken it. I mean, the Cardinals have, the other teams let them catch up, and now they're in a spot where they're going to chase the Cardinals. And you and I have covered the Cardinals long enough and seen a lot of these games. Eventually there is something to the fact. I was just talking on the field with Mike Schultz about this, and Yadier Molina's going out to the bullpen now, and he's wearing 21 without his name on the back of the jersey, just to let you know, for Clemente Day.
Yeah, there you go. That's beautiful. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, it's really cool because he doesn't have his name on the back of his jersey, so it stands out. But I was just asking Schultz about this. I'm like, at the All-Star game, I was talking to your division rivals, Brandon Woodruff and Corbin Burns and, Chris Bryant. And they just all have that same phrase, and it sounds cliche. They're like, well, we know the Cardinals will be there in the end. Well, we know what the division will look like because the Cardinals will be there in the end. And the Cardinals always talk about how, well, we'll be there in the end. And last night, Tyler O'Neill goes, we're the Cardinals. That's what we do. And it's like, really, that is – is that the reputation they have? And so I was asking Chill, like, where does that come from? Like, where does this notion that you guys are so confident in yourselves that other players or the players on other teams go, eventually, like they're resigned to the fact that the Cardinals are ultimately going to have a say in it. And I understand that the track record is there, but gosh, that is some kind of aura that they give off, or some kind of confidence that they have, or some kind of track record that they have other teams buying into it and volunteering on their behalf that they're going to be there. I think that's fascinating.
Well, it's been interesting too, because naturally, this is a narrative, but narratives are true too. That's why, sometimes we rely on the so-called narrative, because that is the story. And if you look during this stretch that they're in, I mean, the guys getting the big hits and doing the big things are, Arenado, not in any order, Molina, Arenado, Goldschmidt and O'Neill. It's just they've really kind of taken the challenge and they're making the best of it. And the same really for their entire pitching staff. Sure, there's a glitch here and there. We're not saying they're perfect, but their pitching has been really, really good during this time too. So again, it isn't like someone's maybe the Cardinals were handed an opportunity, but that's all they were handed. The Cardinals their performance is actually validating this idea that, you know what, you may have caught a break here, but you are making the best of it, at least to this point.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
I mean, look, they're the understudy that steals the show. I mean, they're Wally Pippin, the wild card.
That's good, man. That's good. I like that too. Very good. Well, it's going to be interesting, and I don't even want to analyze the schedule because I think I'm talking about myself. We do that too much, pointing out the soft schedule and for the other teams. And it's okay to do that. I'm not saying don't do that, but we're seeing the Phillies lose to bad teams. We're seeing the Reds lose to bad teams. San Diego's.
The Cardinals lose to bad teams.
Yeah, right. The Pirates gave them fits. The Tigers, although they're not a bad team, but you know what I mean. And the Padres are just flat out losing. I don't think it even matters who they play too much. So, I don't. How do you assess their chances? And it's kind of an unfair question, but put it to you this way: if you want to do it this way, they will win the wild card if, and leaving some other teams out of it if you can. They will win it if.
They will win the wild card if John Lester and Jay Happ pitch like they have been, and that's it. That's it. They'll win the wild card if John Lester and Jay Happ pitch like they have, for the most part, since their acquisition.
Right.
Those two guys continue to give, and that's not even quality starts. I mean, that's like 5 innings and, give up 1 or 2 runs. So they fall short of quality starts. But if they continue to pitch like that, those two guys, the Cardinals have what the other teams in the race do not, and that is the day-to-day pitching that allows them to be in a position like they are today to sweep a series and to win every series, not to win one series and then scramble for pitching and have no idea what they're going to do the next. And the Padres are in that. But the Padres of today are the Cardinals of June. And can you imagine how hard it would be if the Cardinals of June were trying to contend for the wild card? They're just scrambling for pitching.
Right.
And so if the Cardinals get from Lester and he's going tonight, I think if they get a good start from Lester tonight, that puts them in a position to sweep the Mets. That's a sweep. That's a rarity, and that assures that they go into the weekend with the chance to just dispel one of their challengers for the wild card spot. They're in today with that win last night, Bernie, put them in a place they have not been in weeks mathematically, and maybe have never been this entire season, and that is entirely in control of their own destiny.
Right.
And that's true if they lose tonight too. Let me put that. I mean, they can lose tonight and still go into this weekend series completely in control because they are ahead of the Reds and ahead of the Padres in the loss column.
Derek Gould with us, and please follow him on Twitter at dgould. More than that, please support, if you're into digital, please support STL Today with a digital subscription. And I'm not being a hypocrite. I am a subscriber and will always be a subscriber. Got to show respect to my former teammates down there. But even if I didn't know them, I love the job that they do, the work that they do. I wanted to ask you this. When Mo traded for Lester and Happ, I was in here saying, like, it's almost like he's trolling the fans, Mm-hmm. And needless to say, Lester and Happ have exceeded my expectations, and I think a lot of people, right? And but from where you sit, I mean, you've written about this. You sensed before everybody, I believe, that there's something about this that could turn out really well, and I think you know this because of how well you know Wainwright and how well you know the inner dynamics of how they can make each other better. And it's working out that way. And I think your writing on this and reporting on this has been really good.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think it was a conversation with Lester, and I kind of wrote about the conclusion or the second bracket to that. I had a conversation with Lester right after the trade, and, it was me and a couple other writers, and we were talking. And one of the things he said was, you can watch somebody from afar, you can watch them from, the other dugout, and not really know everything that they're doing. He said, I can't wait to watch Wainwright in the same clubhouse when we're trying to compete for the same goal and see what I can learn, because he just felt like he was at at the precipice, really. I mean, to be honest, he described it like he could not pitch the way he always had. And he was fighting, he was stubborn, and he thought he had good stuff, and he's a major league pitcher, and he's had success, and he's like, look, I'm going to get through this. But he had kind of reached that wall where it said, no, you cannot pitch the way you always have. And so I guess it's not a wall, I guess it's a fork in the road, where you go, okay, well, then I can't pitch, or I have to change to pitch and have the same success. And even though I have different stuff, I can find a new way to new results. And he wanted to see how Wainwright was doing that. That reminded me of a conversation I had with Scherzer years ago in spring training, where Scherzer pitched opposite Wainwright as Wainwright was trying to make his comeback. And Scherzer got through his, 40 pitches, and but he stayed. He stayed. He didn't bolt from the spring training game. He stayed, and he was at the railing and everything like that. And I asked him about why. And he said, I'm really curious to see how Adam is going to pull this off. And, this was right at the beginning of Adam's most recent return. And Scherzer goes, I think I have some ideas as to what he's trying to do. I don't know. I want to see it in person. And so it really struck me that, if Lester has that same kind of awareness and now has the access to Molina and Maddox and Wainwright, and then can go out and execute it, then they might be on to something. And then you see the results, like more sinkers, him using the outside part of the plate more, he's using his changeup differently. And it was like, I was watching the game, and I went back and watched his most recent game that he pitched. And I'm like, he's doing things from the left side with different pitches, with the changeup mostly, that Wainwright talks about doing from the right side, and what he's trying to do to carve up the plate. And I thought this was a real tangible example of him either getting instruction from Wainwright or watching Wainwright and going about these games. And then I got a chance to talk with him yesterday, and he said, well, that was kind of the plan put forth by the coaching staff. What Wainwright gave him was the confidence to make the leap that it's possible to pull this off.
Conversation there with Derek Gould and also Bernie Miklasz from earlier in the week. We can't get with Derek live today because he's traveling back from New York to get ready for tonight's 3-game set against the San Diego Padres. But I did like what Derek had to say, so I wanted to share it with you if you weren't able to hear it earlier in the week. I mean, it's interesting how John Lester has been much better since he's come here as a St. Louis Cardinal. He was all right the other night. He wasn't awful, but he did what he needed to do to get a win after he was staked to a 5-run lead. And the fact that even John Lester is learning from Molina and also Adam Wainwright, watching those guys do their craft. It's interesting. Look, we all remember when the trades were made for Happ and Lester, and the quote, and I don't have it in front of me, unfortunately, to play, but it was John Mozeliak saying, well, we just need guys that can get innings and try to get through the year. So, again, go back to that day, and you went, yeah, Cardinals are just kind of mailing it in, just not really too worried about chasing a wild card down, but just trying to get enough healthy arms to get them through the end of the year. They're not super interested in trying to track down this wild card. Well, now they've got this wild card in their hand, in their back pocket. It's only by a half game with the San Diego Padres, but it's there. And again, as I stated earlier in the show, I'm not saying this is a done deal, but everyone's excited, and we should be. They deserve the credit. But they weren't expecting to be here when they made these moves on the 30th of July. And it's worked out well. You got to give them kudos, as Tony La Russa would say, tip the cap to them, because they deserve it right now. And this weekend series with San Diego is going to be very interesting to see how it plays itself out. Jake Cronenworth is questionable to play tonight. I heard he took batting practice in San Francisco. I think it was yesterday. He had a fractured finger that was reported a week ago today. I don't know how in the world you're ready to try and get back in the lineup at any point this weekend, less than a week after having a fractured finger reported. But Cronenworth was not completely ruled out yesterday by their manager, Jace Tingler. We'll see when they start play tonight, but it has been interesting to watch San Diego falter with not having enough pitching, but there was one guy they got, and that's Fernando Tatis Jr. He still leads the league in home runs with 38. He's up there at the slug at 627 at number one. He's second in the league in stolen bases, and he's third in the league with 93 runs scored. Anytime you have a guy like that in your lineup, he can beat you and lead you all by himself. So that'll be an interesting watch because the Padres still have it. They still have Tatis. They still have Machado, who I think has been a thorn in the Cardinals' side over the years, especially since he's been in San Diego. And then you've got the flip side where the Cardinals have had their veterans with Arenado, Goldschmidt, Molina, even Tyler O'Neill coming through. And then we'll see what Wainwright does as he starts his game on Saturday. It is the 17th of September. Just running out of time. We'll see what happens. Just because you have to half-game lead doesn't mean that you will get in there. In fact, go back on this day in 1974. Great note, St. Louis wise. In 1974 on this day, the Cardinals beat the Pittsburgh Pirates by a score of 2-1 in 13 innings. It was the Cards' sixth straight win and the Pirates' sixth straight loss. Pirates were falling fast. Cardinals had a 2.5-game lead after a 3.5-game deficit after this 2-1 win on the 17th. And Cardinal fans are feeling pretty good about possibly winning the National League East at that point. The Cardinals did not win the division. They lost to the Pittsburgh Pirates. But on this day, interesting numbers to share with you on this day in history. Cardinals win the game 2-1. It's in 13 innings. Bob Gibson got the start. He pitched 9 innings, allowed 1 run, a walk, 5 hits, and just 1 strikeout. But he did not get the win, obviously. The win went to Al Hrabosky, who had 4 innings of relief, didn't allow a hit, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. It was the 7th win of the season for the Cardinals. On the flip side, though, get this pitching line. Jerry Royce, pitching for the Pirates, who would also pitch for the Cardinals in his career, but on this day, pitching for the Pirates in 1974, pitched all 13 innings for the Pirates. Allowed just 2 runs, 8 hits, 5 walks, 11 strikeouts, and took the loss as he pitched all 13 innings. This is why I say it's exciting for Cardinal fans right now, but look, you can still end up laying an egg the rest of the way and not get in on this wild card, even though they're playing well. In fact, the Cardinals, as I said, on this day in 74 had won 6 straight. They would lose 5 of their next 7 in 1974, go to a half game out. The Pirates would win the National League East by a game and a half and go to the World Series. So that's, or go to the playoffs, I should say. So that kind of puts it in perspective. It's not a given that the Cardinals can do this. Couple of other notes on this day in history. 1941, Stan Musial made his debut, and of course he went 2 for 4 in his Major League debut. 1968, Cardinals lose to Gaylord Perry and the San Francisco Giants as Gaylord Perry no-hits the Cardinals. Cardinals lose 1-0. Bob Gibson took the loss. That's interesting, but what's more interesting is something that happened the very next day. The Cardinals beat the San Francisco Giants as Ray Washburn no-hit the San Francisco Giants. It's the only time in baseball history we've had back-to-back no-hitters between 2 clubs in the history of Major League Baseball. George Brett appreciation moment here. 1979. You know, we talk about all the great third basemen in Cardinals history. We're watching one now in Nolan Arenado. We've seen Scott Rowland do his thing. But George Brett, I think we always overlook a little bit. But on this day in 1979, he got his 20th triple. 20th triple for George Brett. In the 1979 season, he became the 6th player ever to have 20 triples, 20 home runs, and 20 doubles. He ended up with 42 doubles, 20 homers, and 23 home runs. It was the next year, we all remember, that he batted .390. 1979 was pretty special, and we always, for some reason, I think we always kind of forget George Brett when we think of great third basemen in the history of the game. Mike Schmidt's out there in front. Brooks Robinson defensively. We've seen Rowland here. Terry Pendleton was great. Arenado's been great. Boyer's been good, but always got to conclude the great George Brett. One more note. It was on this day in 1986. The Mets clinched the National League East over the rest of the National League that year. It was one of the greatest teams in the history of baseball. If you haven't seen Once Upon a Time in Queens, the 30 for 30 for ESPN that was just put out, you want to see it because it's pretty spectacular. Talks about those Mets teams and how great they were. And earlier in the week, I spoke to Rick Hummel about those Mets teams.
They were a great team for the season, but they were awfully lucky to have won either one of those postseason rounds. They played Houston, a very tough 6-game series in the championship series, and were down 3 runs going into the 9th inning of Game 6 that would have put them back in Houston for Game 7 with Mike Scott was going to be pitching that game, who handled the Mets easily in Game 1. And the Mets were convinced he was scuffing the ball, and Doug Harvey was the umpire-in-chief that day doing home plate, and he kept all the balls in play, kept throwing them back to Mike Scott, saying, "Looks okay to me." Well, he was going to be doing home plate again, Game 7, and they knew they couldn't beat Mike Scott, so they had to win the 6th game. And then, of course,
that's good stuff from Rick Hummel. That's going to wrap it up for 590 Baseball. Go check out that 30 for 30. You will enjoy it. No doubt about it. Glad you've hung out with us. When we come back, we've got the reset on the other side. Have a great rest of your Friday, everyone.